What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Trey.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Back at it with another video.
Another one.
First and foremost, thanks to everybody that's been subscribing. Really means a lot for me as a new YouTuber. Obviously it's helping me get out there, and appreciate everybody that's hitting me up in the comments, commenting on the videos, engaging in conversation. Really means a lot too. For this video, we're going to be reacting to, it's a video from Zateo. It's from a while back, but I had made mention of the Great Replacement Theory in a previous video of mine, and I came across this video which really kind of unpacks it. So we're going to go ahead and get into it, and I'm going to try and, slice this one up a little bit because it's kind of long, but we're going to slice it up and try and make sure and get the information out there, because I need people to kind of understand and unpack like why this theory started to become, so widespread, and why so many people started to latch on to it, and how they break it down and go through, why it's, I guess, so appealing to a lot of people. Without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Again, I said it's a video from Zateo, so it's Mehdi Hassan and Ibram X Kendi that are breaking everything down.
What is the Great Replacement Theory?
Once you can make people believe that they're losing out, then you can present yourself as their protector and their savior.
Is premised on the idea that Muslims are being brought in, Mexicans are being brought in by Jews to replace white Christians.
Neo-Nazi rhetoric. It's rhetoric that has generated some of the most heinous and vicious mass murders. It's this notion that the Democratic Party was importing voters to steal elections.
Which is Elon Musk's argument now, Donald Trump's argument, but Tucker helped popularize it. A lot of that rhetoric in the first time was seen as on the fringes. Now it's very mainstream.
We're headed towards an electoral dictatorship where elections are run as they are in Hungary and Russia.
Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? How does anything get better?
So I know they threw a lot out, but a lot of the stuff, we're already seeing it, is what I wanted to bring up, right? Obviously, we're already seeing it. That's the reason why they're pushing all these voter ID laws, the Save America Act, and things of that nature. They're trying to convince you that there's such a widespread, illegal folks voting in elections. The only thing that I will say is, yes, it kind of stemmed in the fact that they're importing all these people to pretty much vote in the elections. Not, pay no attention to the South African Afrikaners and stuff like that they're bringing in or trying to bring in. We don't care about all that stuff. But talking about, importing Muslims and things of that nature, it is one side of it, but I still think it's more so the coming to terms with the fact that you are becoming a minority in a country that you believe is yours by birthright, So yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to add.
The United States of America is growing more and more fascistic under Donald Trump, who has used the neo-Nazi Great Replacement conspiracy theory to rile up his MAGA base and make them fear that they are being deliberately replaced by immigrants and people of color. It started for Trump with the birtherism lie in 2008 when he tried to disqualify Barack Obama from becoming the next president, demanding to see his birth certificate to prove he was in fact born in the US. Today, under Donald Trump's second term, it's reached new heights with an all-out war on DEI, Antifa, immigrants, so-called anti-Christian bias, and everything in between. So, how do we stop history, the dark history, from repeating itself? Joining me now is the acclaimed historian and author Ibram X Kendi, whose new book, Chain of Ideas, unpacks the key themes behind the global rise of the neo-Nazi Great Replacement Theory. Thank you so much for coming on Mehdi Unfiltered.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Let's just start with the basics, Ibram. What is the Great Replacement Theory, and how does it connect to the world of neo-Nazis and white supremacists?
Well, it's a political theory that suggests that there are these globalist elites that are enabling the displacing by people of color of white people, particularly their lives, their livelihoods, their culture, their electoral power. And the idea of a globalist, of course, is the origins of that is international Jewry. And so there's this deep anti-Semitic sort of origin story to this theory. But the reason why they're pushing this theory is because once you can make people believe that they're losing out, or their lives are being lost, or that they're even facing a genocide, then you can present yourself as their protector and their savior, and then you can also go about taking away their rights and freedoms in the name of protecting them.
And people like Don.
And think so, if you go back and kind of with that just preface in mind, go back and look at a lot of the things that have been said over the last few elections, it really starts to widen your view of what's really at play and what's really being said. Again, like I've always I've noticed that a lot of people, their racism, their bigotry, their true ideals, their plan are kind of hidden in their language. So they don't just come outright and say the what Mehdi and them are gonna articulate here. They package it in a certain way to get you upset and angry and get you charged up and point you in the direction of who they want you to believe is the enemy. And they use this sort of this reasoning. This is the reason why. This is your doctrine. This is what you need to believe in. This is the reason why you should be upset and why you should be targeting these people.
Donald Trump and Viktor Orban and many others now, growing number of people across the Western world have pushed this theory for exactly those reasons, authoritarian reasons. It's interesting you mentioned international Jewry and you mentioned globalists, something that, and the anti-Semitism inherent in this. The same right-wing Republicans who pushed the Great Replacement conspiracy theory are also the same people who go around saying, don't be anti-Semitic, you Muslims, you leftists, you're all anti-Semitic, ignoring the fact that the Great Replacement theory is premised on the idea that Muslims are being brought in, Mexicans are being brought in by Jews to replace white Christians. And I remember the Tree of Life synagogue shooter. He went after them because he was a Great Replacement guy. He believed that the HIAS, the Hebrew Immigration Society, was bringing in immigrants to replace him. And he went and shut up this synagogue based on that.
He did.
But it's the radical lefts that are, doing all the violence and that are being radicalized and then are committing all the violent acts, all the violent political acts.
He also believed that diversity was harming white people. And he also believed that there was something wrong with Muslims, right? And I think what I found with Great Replacement theory is, in many ways, it links up all these different talking points, tropes, conspiracies, and myths that we've seen sort of plaguing our era that have demonized Muslims and immigrants and Black people and Jews.
And isn't it easy to interlock all of those things if you believe in the Great Replacement theory? Like, really, if you can believe that, like I said, if you can believe that your place in the world is shrinking because of all these other factors, everybody is the enemy. Everybody is the enemy. And you don't have to necessarily be racist to well, wait. I was about to give a little too much grace. You don't have to be outwardly racist, right? You don't have to call, you don't have to be in the position of calling people slurs and things of that nature. If you believe this, but you can view them as the enemy. So you just view them, you don't want them to succeed. Like, I don't have to be evil and hatred towards you, but yeah, I need to be sure that you don't succeed at taking over my country, that you don't succeed in playing, taking over my role in democracy and my vote and in gaining all the power in the country that I believe is mine. And that's, once you can convince somebody that they have to fight for that and that all these other groups of people are against them, and which, a lot of people believed, seen it as like this just crazy idea. So I guarantee you, and this might be a hot take, whatever, I guarantee you that the average minority, so the average Muslim, average Black American, I mean, most immigrants, minorities, and like I said, this might be a hot take, but I don't think everybody's well versed in great replacement theory and thinking about it and things like that. Thinking about like there's potentially white Americans that believe that they are here to steal their vote or take over their country, and they're just living their life. They're trying to be a valued member of society and come and thrive in America, achieve the American dream. That's what most minorities are trying to do. They're trying to make the next meal, next paycheck, make sure their family and their kids have a better chance at success than they did. They're trying to provide a better life for their family, their kids, who they're responsible for. Meanwhile, some young white Americans are being fed this, like, indoctrinated into this ideology where, unbeknownst to, these like minorities that I was just talking about, they are the enemy here to, claim America away from those folks. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You name the group. What's connecting it all is great replacement theory.
Yeah, and it's not just a kind of conspiracy theory that we can kind of laugh at or debate. It has very real world implications. It incites violence. We saw that at the Tree of Life Synagogue.
Yes.
I believe the El Paso shooter during Trump's first term, who shot up the Walmart and killed Latin American shoppers, was also a great replacement guy. Talked about invasion. A lot of that rhetoric, and you've written this book now, but you've obviously been following Trump as I have since the beginning. A lot of that rhetoric in the first term was seen as on the fringes. Mm-hmm. Now it's very mainstream. Everyone, mainstream Republicans talk about invasions.
Indeed, and they talk about immigrants as invaders, and even that term "invader" is a term that Renaud Camus used in his book called "The Great Replacement" in 2011.
I'm sorry to keep stopping it, but I'm just saying, like, they're talking, like, just think about it. You've seen the videos of it was some protest in Charlottesville, I want to say, the Jews will not replace us. Like they said in the beginning, those were the fringes. It's like, these white nationalist groups, nobody's really listening to them and things of that nature. But pay attention to how many of your politicians you've heard say, there's widespread election fraud and there are immigrants. We got to stop these illegal immigrants from voting in your elections. That is great replacement theory at work, right? And there's proof that, like, there's, for all the investigations, like, they'll find like one case where somebody was registered and didn't vote, or maybe like somebody attempted to vote but didn't. But even if they did vote, like if it's one or two votes, you know what I'm saying, it's like minuscule. It's not enough to turn an election. But this not stopping anyone from championing these ideas and regurgitating and repeating it on the mainstream and on such a large scale that you don't have to, but people are entertaining the bullshit.
And that is the book that really named this conspiracy theory, even though it has a long and dark history in the Western world. And so that's what's striking. I think many Americans don't realize that this rhetoric being used is, as you mentioned, neo-Nazi rhetoric. It's rhetoric that has generated some of the most heinous and vicious mass murders in the Western world. You mentioned El Paso, Pittsburgh, Buffalo.
Yes.
The guy who shot up the supermarket believed
Black shoppers.
that African Americans were the most obvious group of replacers, to use his term.
Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share, and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism. Phenomenal amount of violence from this conspiracy, as you say. Something, and by the way, it was Nazi. Now it's just mainstream Republican Party talking point. Interesting, I noted in your book that you say the 2008 recession, the financial crisis, and the crash.
We can't just let that slide by. Again, Mehdi did make a great point. It started off as Nazi, white supremacist, white nationalist rhetoric. Now it is in the Republic. It has become part of Republican Party talking points. So, everybody, everybody's always debating yay or nay, whether or not the Republican Party has made a turn for racism and bigotry and things of that nature. But when you're adopting the doctrine of Nazis, white nationalists, all these fascistic groups, like, look, man, the proof is in the pudding. And I don't understand why we're at this day and age we're still debating these kind of things, but it is what it is.
Followed it, really gave way for the Great Replacement theory to not just re-emerge, but take hold politically across the West. What is it about financial crises, recession, economic downturns, rather than, say, the Syrian migrant crisis or ISIS terror attacks, that really helped Great Replacement take off? Because people might understand, I get it, like Muslim terrorists and Middle Eastern immigrants, but you're saying there's also an economic angle.
So certainly, I think we've been having this debate ever since the rise of Trump, right?
Yeah.
Because you had certain analysts who imagined that economic anxiety was fueling the rise of Trump. And what we as scholars of racism have tried to show, and I certainly show this in Chain of Ideas, is what was actually happening was when people were losing their status, their homes, their jobs, what these Great Replacement theorists like Trump was saying, it was actually other people are coming and taking them from you.
Yes.
So it's not that the sort of corporate restructuring is leading to your job loss. It's that immigrants are taking your job.
You're not being screwed from on high, it's from below, people taking you.
Exactly.
So it makes you more susceptible to this way of thinking, is what you're saying.
And a number of scholars have pointed to what makes an economic crisis effective for these authoritarians if they can connect people's economic pain to their racist or Islamophobic or xenophobic or even sexist ideas.
And this is happening in...
Look at that. If only. And again, one way that you also do this is making sure that we are poorly educated. Y'all seen the meme. Trump is like, oh yeah, we do. I love the poorly educated. Look, man. And I'm not, saying all that stuff is like, I'm not saying that all Trump supporters are poorly educated. But there's a reason why that, our education system is some of the worst education system across the global scale, right? The American education system is terrible. We're not putting as much money into it anymore. We got Linda McMahon is the, Department of Education, whatever. In addition to that, you've also always got racism to fall back on. You've always got racism to fall back on. You've always got it's not you, it's the people that are stealing this from you. It's not your fault. It's the thief. And the thief is also a rapist, and they're here from shithole country. You know what I'm saying? Just giving you someone else to target and blame, not the people at the top that are keeping you from this wealth. You just pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you'll be able to make it. It's the people below you that are stealing this opportunity away from you. It's not the people at the top that are just trying to make sure that their bottom line is increasing at your expense.
For the very reasons we're talking about. And indeed, Donald Trump's mother was an immigrant from Scotland. His father his grandmother was pregnant with his father when she immigrated from Germany. And the way that they rationalize this contradiction is they create this idea of the past bad immigrant versus, I should say, the past good immigrant who apparently, came in a legal way. And
when there were open borders, when there were actual open borders.
Exactly, versus the present bad immigrant who's coming illegally and who's destroying the nation. Because indeed, when you even look at elected officials pushing this theory in Europe, many of them have immigrant ancestry. Nigel Farage, as an example, his ancestors, immigrant, literally were refugees from France.
So it's gone mainstream. You mentioned Farage, you mentioned Maloney. It's across the right. It's following on from Donald Trump having mainstream what was less than 10 years ago a fringe neo-Nazi idea. Even people, it's very casual the way it's used. And I want to give one example of that. I spotted this, I don't know if you did. Tucker Carlson recently did an interview with US Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, in which he grilled him on American support for Israel. It was a very popular interview. But take a look at this clip. I think we can play a clip.
In Great Britain, in Ireland, which is also a country with a nation of people, a race, if you will, that is being displaced, replaced.
Who are they being replaced by?
Immigrants.
Okay.
From other places.
I just wanted to clarify because I was one of the...
Well, just as a demographic matter, it's just like you can look at the numbers. It's not controversial. Just look at the numbers. There'll be a minority in their country.
Hey, Rob, Tucker Carlson did a great interview with Mike Huckabee. People on the left, I have very Muslim friends, enjoyed that interview because he was standing up to Huckabee. But there in the middle of the interview, he can't help himself but push this very far-right, neo-Nazi conspiracy that the people in the UK are being replaced by Muslims. What do you make of that?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, Tucker Carlson was a major character in Chain of Ideas. Indeed, the second section of the book.
One thing that he just said is key there for me. Chain of Ideas. I hate this whole Chain of Ideas thing because it leads way to a whole bunch of bullshit ideas that are allowed space to grow and thrive and just fester amongst the the internet, like whatever. And it's all stemmed, like originally this as a chain of idea is bullshit. It's a bullshit theory that furthers hatred and breeds more hatred and just becomes a mantra for people to adopt and live by. And now it's grown into what it is now. It's too big. And shit like this. So all these thought-provoking people, this supposed thought-provoking things that have been said by all these different right-wing podcasters and things that, I think it's bullshit. Like, some things shouldn't be a conversation or a thought-provoking concept. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't be able to start the concept of, hey, what if Hitler wasn't a bad guy? What if he had some good points? Build from that. You know what I'm saying? As in thought exercise. Like, fuck that. That shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't entertain that as a logical thought experiment. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like this. I don't like the idea of doing that as a thought-provoking thing. It's fucking terrible.
Is set in Hungary when Tucker Carlson goes to...
Big booster of Orban?
Yeah, he goes to Budapest and interviews Orban, and Orban spends most of the interview pushing Great Replacement theory. And that's on Tucker Carlson's show, a show in which he had pushed Great Replacement theory hundreds of times.
I think 400 times you say in your book on 50 hours of primetime TV.
Exactly. And one of the ways in which he pushed it was this notion that the Democratic Party was importing voters to steal elections.
Which is Elon Musk's argument now, Donald Trump's argument, but Tucker helped popularize it. And this worries me because, as you know, I'm sure you've heard this, people on the left, people in black and brown communities now love Tucker. The number of people who come to me and say, Tucker Carlson should be on Today because he's doing, to be fair, good journalism on Israel. He's actually challenging US officials on foreign policy. But then you're like...
But he built his brand, he built his following on the bullshit, right? So he can... I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel good about him, doing the interviews and challenging people. But the only reason why he has that access is because he has that rapport, because they know ultimately he believes a lot of the same shit they do. And he's pushed a lot of the same shit that they would push. So they let their guard down. So when he does challenge them on certain things, it's like, well, what the fuck, bro? Why are you coming at me like that? So fuck yeah, I don't trust him. I don't care for Tucker. I see through his bullshit. He built his base on that, and now he's got such of a kind of, I won't say a cult following, but he has enough of a following that he can do whatever the fuck he wants to. He can change his views, you know what I'm saying? He can change who he supports, won't support, and he's still going to have a large base of following, but it all stems from pushing shit like this that is fucking racist in nature.
Can I just ignore the fact that he's also at home pushing this very far-right dangerous conspiracy theory?
Yeah, we can't ignore that. And certainly, I'm happy you pointed out, in an interview when he pushes back right? He also reinforces one of the most dangerous ideas that's affecting the UK right now. So in the UK right now, Nigel Farage's Reform Party is leading in the polls,
Yes,
based on his pushing of Great Replacement theory.
there's a poll out this week that suggests more than half of Reform members would want to expel or deport or denaturalize British citizens who are born abroad who are people of colour. Again, people of colour, not just people from Poland or Ukraine, the people of colour, which seems to be the key point. Imran, what do you say to people, well-intentioned people who are not on the far right, who might be members of minorities themselves, who say, but it's a fair point. When you go to London now, there are more black and brown people, there are more Muslims, there are more immigrants. Isn't that replacement?
Well, first and foremost, what they're saying is there's not just demographic change. So none of us are denying the facts of demographic change.
Exactly.
What they're saying is demographic change is destroying the nation.
And it was deliberately engineered.
Exactly. And it's this conspiracy from on high. And that is incredibly dangerous, first and foremost, because it's not true.
Yeah.
You know, immigrants are not destroying any nations. No. If anything, they're saving nations in certain cases, particularly their economies. But it's also dangerous because this is the same idea that Hitler pushed about Jews. That these people were alien to the nation, and that there was this global conspiracy for Jews to destroy the nation. It was imagined that all of Europe's ills were rooted in the Jewish presence. And that is precisely what these Great Replacement politicians are pushing now.
And that's where it ultimately heads. Like, yeah, so laying the groundwork for this, the ideology to spread and people to be so committed. We've already got people that are radicalized by it on the fringes. Now we've got politicians that are regurgitating the same thing. So it's become more mainstream and more accepted. Midterm elections, you know what I'm saying? They're probably going to figure out a way to say, see, told you so, this is what's happening kind of deal. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but they're going to try. I don't know if they're going to be able to succeed at it, but they're going to try. And if they're successful, like, then what? Then what when people feel like legit their country is legit being stolen? Like, you're regurgitating these things that are riling these people up, and then they're seeing it. You know, January 6th was, for all intents and purposes, a controlled thing in one area. These midterm elections are going to be across like all the states. So all it takes is for this stuff to start to ripple and spread amongst all the populations during the midterm elections. And then what happens? Like, you can't put that toothpaste back in the bottle. It's out there now, and people are emboldened by it. So this is a mess. This is bullshit.
All of the United States ills. Yes. You can't get homes, immigrants. You can't get jobs, black people. You can't get this, another group. But
the rhetoric, as you say, you mentioned Nazi Germany. I spend a lot of time for my sins on X, on Twitter. Can't seem to kick that addiction. But I see, and I'm subjected to it as a Muslim public figure, it's especially depressing to see the Nazi rhetoric coming from Jewish Republicans, coming from Jewish people on the right. Some of the worst rhetoric about Muslims today that sounds like Nazi rhetoric comes from Laura Loomer, comes from Randy Fine, Republican member of Congress, comes from Mark Levin, the Fox host. You could change the word Muslim to Jew and it sounds like a Nazi speaking in the 1930s.
This is the reason why in my work, I have tried to get us to move from focusing on the perpetrator and more so focused on the victim. Because when we move our conception to the victim, and we now understand that the victims have changed. So, and that's not to say that Jews are not still being subjected to anti-Semitism, which they certainly are. But as it relates to Great Replacement theory, the groups that are most likely being positioned as the replacers are Muslims, are immigrants of color, are black people in the United States, or even Asians in
but
parts.
The victims have changed, but the theory's the same, the rhetoric's the same, the outcome is the same.
Exactly.
You touch on many examples in the book. You mentioned Hungary earlier. And you write, in conventional dictatorships, dictators, when you're writing about Viktor Orban, you say dictators do not hold elections, political violence is constant, opposition parties and independent media are banned. In electoral dictatorships, dictators do try to amass a base of support and then rig elections enough, suppress the opposition enough, inflict enough violence, and control the media enough to all but guarantee their continuous re-elections. I mean, clearly that sounds like Orban, but it sounds like Trump too. In fact, many would argue Trump has gone beyond Orban in much lesser time. I don't remember Orban having his police shoot people in the street.
And this is what I think it's important for the American people to recognize where we're headed. We're headed towards an electoral dictatorship where elections are run as they are in Hungary and Russia, but the likelihood, of the sitting head of state losing is next to impossible. And what's critical in the maintenance of those electoral dictatorships is a certain segment of the population consenting to their own domination. And that's what great replacement theory convinces people to consent to their own domination on the pretext that.
And that's pretty much already happened. It's pretty much already happened. There's a large enough, I believe, and this is me being a pessimist, but I believe that there's enough of the population that is already willing to accept that, the domination. I believe there's enough of the population that if we were to put it up to a vote right now, they would say, yes, vote Trump in for another term as our supreme leader until he passes. Now, whether or not the vote would pass is one thing. I believe that there are still a large number of people that would support an idea like that, is what I'm getting at.
And Orban or Trump is here to protect them.
The racism goes hand in hand with the authoritarianism.
It does.
Last question I've got to ask you. I ask a lot of guests in these kind of dark, depressing times how they keep hope alive. I do want to ask you a version of that question, which is specifically related to this issue of race and racism, which you study and write about. Back in 2020, you became super famous. Your books became big bestsellers in the wake of George Floyd's murder. Joe Biden wins that election in the middle of a pandemic in the wake of the big protests over George Floyd. We thought change was coming. Yeah. Instead, 4 years later, the most racist politician of our lifetime is re-elected with more votes than he got in 2016. And he begins dismantling anything we had that stopped racism. What do you want to call it? DEI, affirmative action, et cetera, et cetera. It's only getting worse right now. If you go online, it's a cesspool. You look at our mainstream media, it's being bought out by right-wing, far right-wing oligarchs and racists. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? How does anything get better on this front, specifically race?
Well, for me, I'm always at my lowest when we are being inundated, when the world is radically transforming and I don't understand why. I don't understand sort of the source of us being inundated with this flood of authoritarianism. And that was one of the reasons why I set out to write Chain of Ideas. Like, what is happening? What's connecting these disparate political ideas? What's fueling this movement? And the more I understood that it was actually this old theory with a new name called Great Replacement Theory, I became more clear-eyed on what needs to be done. And I think that's lifted, frankly, my spirits. Because, like if your home is being flooded and you don't know where the water is coming from,
yes,
you're going to be much more.
I don't see how his spirit got lifted as he got more, obviously he's well educated and he wrote a whole book on it. Once I got more exposure to it, I just felt like, more, not defeated, but I just start to see how it's taken hold of so many people. It just, it's one of those things. It's taken a hold of so many people. It's discouraging. Like I said, I keep hope alive. I keep engaging with people, trying to combat the rhetoric and things of that nature. But I can't get a lot of people to see the light. Let's just put it that way.
More depressed than when you figure out where it's coming from.
Now you know what you can do to fix it. Fight
exactly.
back.
Exactly.
The book is called Chain of Ideas, The Origins of Our Authoritarian Age. It is out now. Ibrahim Kendi, thanks so much for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So obviously that's the end of it. I know it was a lot. I know it's, this one is a heavy one, but yeah, definitely let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Have y'all seen this with people that if you do engage with people that are on the conservative right, or if you are on the right yourself, do you agree with a lot of the stuff that's in the replacement theory? Or do y'all that are engaging with people about it, is it do you still have hope? Have you been exposing people to the truth of the falsehoods of great replacement theory? Anyway, yeah, let me know what y'all think. Make sure you make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll holla at you.
Hating on my energy, I don't think you wanna be my enemy. I pop out, they go wild, so celebrity. Too busy